Welcome back to my channel. I'm Traben, and in today's video, we'll be looking at everything I plan to read for the month of April. Alright, we're gonna pull the cart over. Stupidly in love with this cart. It's so simple, but it's just been really nice to have everything organized in one place. I currently have about 17 titles on my TBR cart. Eiji Tsuburaya, Master of Monsters. This is a nonfiction book about Eiji Tsuburaya, who is the founder of Tsuburaya Productions, the creators of Ultraman, and he also did a lot of the effects with the early Godzilla movies as well. And so I've started this one up a couple of times already and just haven't gotten through it. It's not super long by page count. It's only not even 200 pages, but it is quite lengthy, almost like a textbook. So it just takes a lot to get through. And so I'm hoping that this month will be the one that I finally get through this one. The Ice Pick Surgeon. This was actually recommended to me by user Abigail Hellcruel 3610. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Off of my short for favorite nonfiction reads. I mentioned Mary Roach's Stiff. They recommended that Sam Keane has a similar writing style with the nonfiction reads. So this will probably be one of the ones I pick up early in the month because I've already started it and I did enjoy what I had read so far. I got through the introduction and a little bit through chapter 1, so this one I'm already looking forward to. It's all about the dark side of science experiments and scientific inquiry. So looking at moments where we pushed science and did morally questionable things. So very interesting concept for nonfiction. I put Strange the Dreamer on here. It showed up on a list of, I can't remember if it was like difficult books to read or just like complicated books. I had heard there's something, I want to say there's something challenging about reading through this, and in that same list were a couple of other titles that I had read recently and really enjoyed, and so it reignited my interest in picking this one up. We'd already bought it, but it moved up my rating, my desire to get it on the TBR list and the TBR cart sooner. So this one's hefty, so over 500 pages. That's going to take a bit. So, but hopefully the unique style keeps me engaged. Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies as a potential cozy fiction read. I've seen some wrap-ups and some like quick reviews talking about this one, and just from the premise, it seems like something akin to Legends and Lattes, these like lower stakes fantasy stories that I've really been enjoying lately. And so another one that, because of some of the things I've seen on YouTube recently, shot up on my TBR list and is something I want to get to a little bit sooner than maybe I would have otherwise done. At Dinneman's Dungeon Crawler Carl. I've been picking up a lot of lit RPG titles recently, and I listened to the audiobook for Kaiju Battlefield Surgeon, which was like a 20-something hour audiobook. This one seems to be more fantasy-based, where Kaiju Battlefield Surgeon was more science fiction, fantasy, RPG, fusion. Also one that's making waves on at least Daniel Green's channel. So I know he's read through the first book. I think he got through the second one last month and has a review up for that as well. But I want to get through a title first before I start looking at those wrap-ups. He had good things to say about this first book. I am hopeful that it hits the same beats as Kaiju Battlefield Surgeon, with some quirky choices and some interesting developments that maybe you don't see coming. That really is the appeal for a lot of the lit RPG titles I've read so far, is these characters that make counterintuitive decisions that end up being really clever in the end. Hoping that we get the same sense from this book. Crimson Moth by Kristen Kikarelli. This one is another title that I've seen around in multiple places. So a lot of times I'll get these Fairy Loot titles and I won't see anything about them. I'll pick up the Barnes & Noble YA Book Club book for the month and I seem to be the only one talking about it. It's encouraging to see that this one is making some waves in a couple of different places. It still seems like it's going to fit very comfortably into the Fairy Loot wheelhouse of YA romantasy with dark fantasy elements, which is not bad per se, but it is getting to the point where the books are starting to feel a little repetitive. Not a lot of range within the titles. I'm hoping the buzz surrounding this is indicative of a little bit more depth in this title. We have Where the Dark Stands Still. This is the latest Barnes & Noble YA Book Club book that I've been able to find. I'm sure there's a release for March that I am missing. The premise here sounds like something I'm more primed to enjoy. It sounds similar to something like The Forest Grimm, which I did enjoy, even though, again, it was this romantasy story. The other elements of it were things I really liked to read about, and so I'm hoping, again, that this incorporates those elements and gives me that same feeling. What the River Knows. Now, this is my Barnes & Noble YA Book Club version, but it was also released as a Fairy Loot book, so I have both versions, and again, I've mentioned before, but it seems like the universe is telling me I need to read this book. It was another one that was getting more buzz outside of these circles. The subject matter here is something that's maybe a little less well-trod than some of the other settings we've had in these YA titles recently. So this deals with ancient Egypt. It deals with magic. It makes references to the Mummy and Death on the Nile in the plot synopsis. So again, those are good indicators, fairly good odds that I will enjoy this book. Zerk Collection 3. So this is one that I've been sitting on for a while and want to get back into. The downside is like each volume is a good like $50, and so I'm not going to be burning through these very quickly, but each of these large collections is like reading 3 of the regular size comics, and having the oversized art on these is really nice, especially when you get into some of the splash pages and the action panels. They really stand out in these special editions. So this is just another one that I know I've already been enjoying. I just want to get back on the wagon, back into reading through these books. The rest of my cart is full of the round 2 titles for the manga tournament. So we've got Time I Got Reincarnated as a Slime, Chainsaw Man, Beastars, Wotakoi, Witch Hat Atelier, Hell's Paradise, The Promised Neverland, and Blood on the Tracks. I'm already going to have a video out as a retrospective for round 1 of that manga tournament, and I've already talked at length about my feelings on the first set of comics. Plus, once I get these read, they're definitely going to be featured in videos in which I go through and apply the Cawpile review method to each title so we can see what's going to move on to the 3rd round of the tournament. That's going to do it for this month's TBR. Please let me know down in the comments below if there are any of these titles that you would be interested in seeing a review for. I will likely continue my series on the Barnes & Noble YA books as reviews. And I'm also interested in starting up similar reviews for the Fairy Loot books that I receive. But I don't know, maybe the cozy fantasy story will stick out to me as something that I want to talk about, or possibly the difficult, offbeat, Strange the Dreamer. And I'm not sure I've ever reviewed a nonfiction title, so that might be something worth pursuing. Let me know down in the comments if there's anything out of those titles that you would like to see a deeper dive into. As always, please like, comment, subscribe, feed that algorithm. Let me know in the comments below what you're reading for the month of April. I hope your reading journey is going well. And until the next one, take care.